Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. A great fixed op experience begins with empowerment at every level to do the right thing. With us today are Tom Dahl, the president and CEO of Subaru of America, Liza Borches, the president and CEO of Carter Myers Automotive, and Adam Arens, the owner of the Patriot Automotive Group. Tom, Liza, and Adam, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, it's great to be with you again. And obviously, it's great to be with Liza and Adam, two of my favorite retailers of all Subaru land. So it's going to be a great conversation that we're going to have today. I'm looking forward to it.
We had such a great time together, I think, on this roundtable last time that we are honored you brought us back together again, Ted. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be with such great friends, all three of you, and given the opportunity to share about some of the things that we've been able to accomplish with everybody's help on this screen and all the people that work back in the stores.
Well, if those weren't watching at this time last year, Tom, remind us, tell us a little bit about maybe how long you and Liza and Adam have known each other and some of the backstory on that, if you don't mind.
Well, what's interesting about Liza's store, Carter Myers Automotive Group, is that I've known Liza's father for many, many years from NADA. In fact, many of the NADA dinners or whatever, Carter would be sitting right next to me. And he would always be asking me about Subaru, and he needs to get a Subaru store. And finally, maybe about 10 years or so ago, that was able to come into fruition. And then, of course, I met Liza as she's taken over for her dad running the business. And of course, Adam, I've known Adam probably for 20 years up at Patriot Subaru, up at Saco, Maine. And Adam's always done a great job for Subaru. In fact, Adam's store was one of the early members of our Chairman's Roundtable, which is now our Pleiades Club, which is the highest level a retailer can achieve in the Subaru world. And it represents retailer excellence. It's not just sales. It's sales, it's parts and service, it's added security, it's net promoter score. It's everything that makes a retailer great. And we've got two great retailers here representing Subaru. I'm so proud of these two. I can't tell you how excited I am to be with them on the panel today.
And I'm excited as well. They do so much for our industry, Tom, and they've been involved very much with the Fixed Ops Roundtable as well. I have to start by asking you, Tom, one of the things I've heard over a long period of time is that Subaru retailers appreciate your straight talk and your transparency. And I think that's the foundation of your partnership. You've had an amazing run up in sales the past 10 years or more. Talk to us a little bit today, and then we'll ask Liza and Adam about the cooperation between the retailer and the manufacturer when it comes to customer retention in both service and sales.
Well, I think us, the manufacturer, and our retailers want the same thing, right? We want a loyal customer relationship. And in fact, we think the goal of our businesses should be to create a loyal customer. And from a manufacturer perspective, now I can't say this necessarily for my two retailers that are on the video here with me today, but sometimes I think retailers focus too much on perhaps like their net margin or their effective labor rate versus some of the, and that takes the emphasis away from doing some of those little things that customers need, like oil changes, brake jobs, tire rotations, just putting air in the tires, for example, because they're worried about the effective labor rate. And sometimes then that doesn't create the customer retention or loyalty because the customer doesn't think they're being valued. And I think that's one of the things that maybe we as a manufacturer need to get across to the retailers, that these metrics are very important to know and to understand, but you have to factor in the whole business and how customers can relate to that. So things like, it's important for retailers to have tech training, and both of these retailers do, because that helps with fix right the first time. And then, of course, you have to have adequate loaner vehicles in place in order to make sure that the customers can be out and on their way. We really certainly don't want them in the waiting room for any length of time. And then that builds trust, and then that builds the relationship. And then the customer feels valued, and that's how we add value into our entire operations. And then that brings the customer back, and we've got this great positive circle of trust going up, if you will. So those are the things that I think, but retailers and manufacturers have to work together on, is to make sure that we build this lasting customer relationship built on trust. And if we can do that, then really the success of our business is truly assured.
Liza?
You know, the word collaboration, I think, is integral in everything that Subaru does with their retailers. But when we talk about customer retention, there is absolutely zero chance of retaining a customer if both the OEM and the retailer don't do their job well. It does take both of us. We can have great product without a great experience, and we're going to lose that customer. We can have a subpar product, but a phenomenal retailer experience, and we're going to lose that customer. So I think Subaru and the Subaru retailers fully understand that it is a collaborative relationship to make it happen. But two special things that I think are different with what Subaru does that really helps significantly increase the retention of our customers is, first, the way that they engage our sales and service teams, whether it be through Love Promise, some of the things that Tom does personally that I'm sure we'll talk about, but they get our associates in love with the Subaru brand and the Subaru product and what Subaru stands for, that just exudes out to our customers and gets our customers as excited about the Subaru brand. So it's not just that they're coming to us for service, but our Subaru team is so excited about the brand that they represent that I think that significantly impacts our retention with this brand in particular. In fact, you know, we have a lot of brands at CMA. We have 18, and it's probably the only one that we have that, like, I couldn't take my Subaru service manager and say, I want to put you in a bigger store. I'm going to go put you in, I'm not going to name another brand. They don't want to go. They want to stay with the Subaru brand. So that's one piece. The other thing that I think is important to mention, you know, Tom talked about all the metrics that are specific to how well is our department doing financially, but there are also, I think, negative ways that we look at CSI that doesn't necessarily help us with retention. The way Subaru looks at the Net Promoter Score, they have a process in place that together we identify opportunities that might be causing customers to defect. And I think it is a collaborative process through the team they have in place and the investments they've made in their people working with our service advisors, our sales associates, so that we're properly identifying the opportunities and making improvements, not just focusing on the score. So those are just two things I thought I would mention that are specific to Subaru.
You know, Adam, Liza mentioned that excitement in the associates, and I know that that transcends onto the guests as well. I have a Subaru customer in my household who loves her Crosstrek, and she's so passionate about that product, and she's excited every time she gets behind the wheel and drives it. So I know all that to be true, Adam.
So, you know, I think one of the things that they both mentioned, and just the way that we communicated in our store, is that vertically, from the manufacturer to the sales arm of the manufacturer to the region or distributor to the retailer to the service manager and general manager, all the way through, it's vertical, in that everybody understands that there are no just solid short-term decisions, that everything has to reflect on what a long-term decision is, right? So that day when you can't get that customer in and their car's broken, you risk having a long-term relationship, right? So you have to see that as a risk to the viability of that customer and as a risk to your business. For us, we've been able to focus on the customer and try to say, okay, this is something that the customer needs to have. And with other manufacturers, and Liza has many, and I've worked with a few, they will tell you it's their policy not to do something, as opposed to look at what the long-term risk is of not doing something, right? So sometimes it doesn't make sense. Customer ran out of gas doesn't mean that we should buy them a new car, but it does mean that we should come to their rescue and understand what happened to them. And I'm not saying that that's a service problem, but a battery doesn't start when somebody's supposed to be at work and they're the type of people that always have an excuse for why they're late. Doesn't mean you blame them because they left their lights on overnight or they left the dome light on and their battery didn't start. And the other side of that is, you know, we have, as we've grown, we had tremendous growth up until COVID. We continue to grow as a group, but the volumes come down, but the service volume has not. We now have the explosion of 2019, 2020, 2018, 2017 of this successful franchise. So the pressure on your associates in the service department is high, but it's also high because we have a lot of first-time buyers, first-time Subaru owners who are now in their first customer pay situation. So they need a set of tires. And by the way, tires are not $600 anymore. Everybody seems to know that on this screen, but the customer doesn't. but to have some empathy for somebody when you're presenting them an $1,150 better or adequate level and $1,400 best level for those set of tires, and that they weren't ready for that, especially in today's economy. So that being said, again, just all of us try to remember from both the manufacturer and the people in the dealership that there are no short-term decisions that are isolated.
You know, Adam, that's a really good point. Like I've always tried to tell our customer advocacy group that when a customer calls in, the last thing they want to hear is our policy is this or our policy is that, because policy is made to protect us, the manufacturer. It's not made to help the customer. So we have to find ways to help the customer, no matter what their situation is. So I try to say to them, don't ever say the word policy. We're here to solve the customer's problems, which is what you just said, right? That's what we're all about. It's not about the customer did this wrong or that wrong, or they may have done something. We want to help them. And you can't help them if your policy dictates something. Policy just tries to minimize any cost that we might have as a manufacturer. Customers want to hear that. Customers got a problem. They're coming to us with an issue, and we got to solve it.
Tom, you just mentioned the customer advocacy department, and I think it's worth highlighting. I mentioned earlier that we see where Subaru is investing in their people, Ted, and that signals to them what's most important. And I can't remember Renee's name off the last name off the top of my head. She is phenomenal, and seeing Subaru invest in someone at such a high level to oversee their customer advocacy department. The teams at our Subaru stores tell me all the time, since she came on board, it is easier for them to take care of customers the way that they can communicate and connect with the customer advocacy department. And so I think what you're saying is real. We see it out in our dealerships.
Yeah, her name is Renee Rem, by the way.
Renee Rem, yes.
Yeah, she's terrific. You're absolutely right.
And we talk about this when we talk about advocacy for the customer, and people try. In other brands, they've basically been told you can't. And one thing I can tell you is that problems don't need blame. They need solutions.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the culture that Subaru, Tom, that you've created. And, you know, maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago in the automotive retail, we didn't hear a whole lot about culture. It's one of the top talking points now here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Tom, I want to also ask you, you mentioned some of the things. Any frustrations you've had with your retailers in the service and parts area, and even sales that you'd want to mention?
I wouldn't say there's frustrations. I think there's always things to work on and to get better at. And I think that's what we try to do with our retailers. I think Liza said it really well. I mean, as part of our surveys that we do with our customers that determine what the Net Promoter Score is for a particular retailer, there's comments that the customer makes. And what we try to do is get those comments back to the retailer, get them back, whether it's the sales side, the service side, parts side, to make sure that they understand what the customers are experiencing so that they can get better. It's not about saying, you know, do this better, do this better. It's about making the experience for the customer better. And that's really what we try to do in working with our retailers and in parts, service, and in sales. And it's about creating that value, right? If we do this well, we're creating a value that the customer, as Liza really said, you know, we're not always going to have the best products, right? We're not always going to have the best of everything. But if we can be the best at service, and if we can be the best relationship with our customers that we can possibly build, they'll overlook that stuff because they don't get it anywhere else. And that's what we're trying to provide.
I'll tell you something that Tom is frustrated about, because we heard it loud and clear at the retailer meeting. He was very frustrated with any retailers selling over MSRP, and only because he cares, and we all care so much about customer retention, which is what started this conversation, right? Yes. We want to make sure that we are thinking long-term and not in the moment. So I'm going to say it for you, Tom. Tom was frustrated with retailers who made decisions to make the money for the moment and not think about the long-term relationship. I'll leave it at that.
Well, you know, it is too. It's about what, you know, in business and in life, what do we want to be remembered for, right? And what we want to be remembered for is not just, and I've said this at our national business conferences, it's not just for being a good business person, but we also want to be remembered for being good people that are in business. And there's a big difference between the two. And what we're trying to do is to merge that gap. We want good business people and good people. Thanks, Liza.
I've used that quote since that retailer meeting several times with our team. It was one of my biggest takeaways. And Adam, I know that you know this as well. I think this isn't necessarily a frustration, but I think Subaru is also strongly encouraging a lot of us to look at the capacity in our fixed operations departments. We did the Fox program many years ago. We all expanded, but now we need to look to probably another expansion. And one of the things that I really will applaud Subaru for, and some of our other partners too, but not all of them, I think as we start talking a little bit more about EVs, I think Subaru has taken a really good approach in making sure to help us make smart decisions on investments for the future around EV infrastructure, and not having a knee-jerk reaction and asking for huge investments of infrastructure that potentially could be obsolete in 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank Tom and the other OEMs who are being partners with us to make sure we're making good decisions on how we look at our fixed operations through the lens of what EVs are going to be doing for us in the future.
So I'm going to take this a little bit different direction, but I agree with you on the EVs. In the frustrations, I'm talking about the frustrations of our people, and we'll talk a little bit about equity, right? So the longer somebody's with you as a customer or as an associate, the more equity you have. So for instance, when there's a back order on parts, if somebody's been with you and they know you're going to take care of them as soon as it comes in, it's fine. But if it's their first Subaru, you have to be a lot more cognizant of that, because it's the first experience that they're having that requires for them a do this or break. So the reason may be the same, but the way that you communicate with that person might be different, and the urgency might be different. And in November, as we're doing this in November, we do our planning for next year. So we just finished our plans, and it includes both infrastructure and sales volume and how that affects all of the other departments, et cetera. So for 2023, we're forecasting a 20% or back to normal sales volume on new, 15% increase on used, a 15% growth in parts and service, both. And increased pricing in parts and service, and a reduction in margin in sales. That's just what it is, right? So I say that, and our service and parts managers say, where am I going to put the people? And then I have to show them what the owner sees as what our facilities look like. So our facilities look like 168 hours a week for a bay. That's the potential if you have an inefficient person operating in that bay, because there's 168 hours in the week. That's all we get. Parts manager says, I need a place to store more parts. And I said, well, maybe you just need to organize a little better. And we pointed out, rather than doing construction, there were things that we could do that the associates would help us do to become more efficient, more effective with the resources that we already have. So imagine saying, I can increase my business by 15% without significant additional resources other than training and retaining your associates that you have in sales, service, and parts. That comes from equity, because the people have been there long enough to realize that we can do better, even though we might be getting awards for being the best.
That's terrific.
Love it. You both just mentioned EVs. I want to talk about that for a little bit. We're hearing there's going to be significantly less maintenance coming up for EVs. And one of the trigger points, probably the biggest trigger point on the ICE vehicles, being the oil change. And there's also a new phrase we're hearing a lot about recently, the connected car, over-the-air up-to-dates. Tom, I'll start with you. How is Subaru preparing for that? I know some of that is already here. And how are you helping the retailers prepare as well?
Well, we're getting ready to launch our first EV, the Solterra. We're hoping we're going to be able to launch it in June, but unfortunately we had a recall that had to be rectified first before we could effectively launch it. But I don't know yet exactly, if there's going to be, if anybody really knows that EVs are going to require less maintenance or not. But to your other point about connected car, we've had telematics in our cars really since the 2016 model year that came out in 2015. So we've got well over 2 million vehicles, 2.5 million vehicles that are out on the road that are equipped with a device that communicates back to us as to what types of problems these cars are experiencing. And every day we get these leads in from the vehicles, right? And we send those to our retailers. And one of the things is that, and it's a source of great profit, I think, for our retailers, is just answering and getting back to these customers that have a check engine light come on because It gives our retailers the code. It kind of directs them as to what might be wrong with the vehicle. But we only have about a third of the calls that get answered at any given time. So in other words, these leads come in, but because of maybe capacity reasons, or customers are making arrangements through the online scheduler, a lot of these Starlink, we call them Starlink leads because that's the name of our system, go unanswered. And so one of the challenges that we're going to have is working with our retailers to try to figure out how we can better answer these leads as they come through, and make sure that we get back to these customers and get them in, get them serviced, because that in the long run, that's how we're going to be able to bring these customers back in. Because once cars get out of the warranty period, the drop off of customers coming back to our stores, it drops probably more for other manufacturers than it does for us. But we want these customers to come back, and that's where we're going to get this owner retention from the longer term ICE vehicles. They're going to be out there, and they're going to be out there for a long time, just to make sure that we get our share of those.
Liza and Adam.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Adam. I'll go after you.
So Liza and I both have a brand that has had EV for an extended period of time. We have real data, right? And I'm going to say the frequency of need is lower, but the loyalty is much higher. You can't take your EV to John, the guy you went to high school with, to do a repair or do anything. So it becomes incumbent upon us when we're dealing with EVs to let people know that there's anything associated with that car, we are there for them, whether it's through remote application or in present. And we will stock when they need tires so that it can be done the same day, right? So we're initially going to have a limited variety of EVs, so we should always have those tires, because somebody's going to get a flat in the first 1,000 miles and you could lose them forever.
You're right.
If you don't have that tire in stock. So, as I told to our team this week when we're talking about EVs, okay, we have to be ready for the things that we're responsible for the day we sell the first one. That's a set of tires or more, which is not quite as easy. Possibility of replacing wheels, not quite as easy as we thought it would be because of supply chain interruptions and things like that. But so we just have to be aware that the loyalty should be through the roof, especially with Subaru. It has been with Nissan and with Prius. So Leaf and Prius have proven that. They don't intend to go anyplace else. It's just their frequency is going to be a little bit less.
And I think it's a different type of work. Certainly on the newer EVs, we are seeing some more warranty work than maybe we would have on newer vehicles that were ICE vehicles, just because it's a lot of new technology. So I think the first 10 years of significant EVs in our shops, the type of work is going to look different than it used to, but it's still going to be there. I think it's an exciting time for us to be recruiting technicians who are seeing this new product and a different type of job than maybe 2 generations ago when someone was looking to come into the technical part of our industry. So that part's exciting. I think going back to the connected car that you asked about, and you talked about kind of over-the-air updates and how does that affect retailers and OEMs. None of us actually, at least on this call, all of us would be in full agreement that we have to do what is best for the customer. And if an over-the-air update is going to make their car safer and more reliable and keep them on the road, then we don't want to do anything that would stop that from happening. At the same time, I think there's going to be a lot of things that could be purchased over the air or online that are maybe, whether it's added performance, whether it's added features on their car, things that they could buy after the sale. And I think that's where there needs to be a more collaborative conversation between the OEMs and the retailers on how we can make that work for everybody and create a win across the board. Good for the customer and good for all of us. But the safety and reliability, it has to, in all of our decisions, the customer has to be forefront. And so the connected car is going to allow us to give a better experience to the customer. And we're just going to have to continue to have an open dialogue between us to make sure that it is a win for everybody.
Love it.
And that goes back to what happens in the future, right? So in the future, cars, some of them will drive themselves, but let's assume that somebody's going to use their car for commercial purposes, which that's happening a lot now between Uber, Lyft, and other things. Do you have people that are willing to work on cars at 8 o'clock at night, 8 till 4 in the morning, right? So if the car is the asset and how they make a living, right? It's already happening with trucks. So diesel mechanics are doing a lot of work overnight. And since this is fixed ops, I will point out something that I always do. The most important thing that you do for your technicians is to leave them alone and let them do their work. Stop interrupting them, because we found the efficiency of people that work from 8 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning can be 30 to 40% higher than anybody that works during the day. So stop interrupting them in the middle of a job.
Great conversation on the fixed ops side, everybody. Manufacturers right now are more involved than ever, it seems, on the fixed ops side, after sales. And that includes instruction, guidelines, conferences. Tom, what role is Subaru playing outside of, let's say, the traditional technician training?
Well, every year we have our National Business Conference, but unfortunately in that conference, we're talking about a lot of things. We're talking about product, we're talking about sales, marketing activities, as well as after sales and service. So this year, what we're trying to do is we're going to be implementing our first ever after sales business conference. We're going to have it in Las Vegas beginning in April, early April. And we're hopeful that we get a great turnout from our retailer body. And I know you're going to help us with some retailer panels and some other discussions that you're going to help us lead with. And so we're really excited about having that, because it's going to help us to continue to build our brand in after sales. It's kind of like one of the things Adam was just talking about. You know, in the future, it will not be the car. The customer experience will be the star, right? I wrote a song about this. Subaru's logo is the star. And so we got to get our retailers ready to represent our cars the right way. And that's why this after sales conference is so vitally important for us. And we're really excited about having it. We're looking forward to a great turnout.
It sounds exciting, and I've got a glimpse of what some of the topics may be that are coming. And I have to tell you, Tom, very, very timely. And I know the industry is ready for it, and your Subaru retailers will embrace it as well.
Yeah, we really should have started this a number of years ago, but better late than never, right?
Tom, I said the same thing about the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I wish I had started 8 years ago, but it's amazing about all the ideas that have come to fruition and the sharing of best practices and ideas and how we all learn from each other. So my compliments to you on doing that. Talk to us a little bit. We learned last year that you received personal letters from Subaru owners, and that you, Tom Dahl, recognize not only those owners, but the associates at the retail level, and highlighting that experience they provide. I've seen some of the handwritten letters. Some have been posted online, along with a star pin that you send. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I think it's important. Our brand, it's about love. It's what makes Subaru Subaru. And we have this fundamental philosophy or principle called our love promise. And it's a love promise we want to deliver not just to our customers, but also to each other. So I think it's important for us at the manufacturer level, when we get a good letter from a customer, to recognize the people that actually made that happen on the front line. And what I do is, as you point out, I write a little card, and in the card I put one of these little Be Starful pins, you know, that I'm holding up here. And a person gets that, and hopefully they'll wear it in the store so that others within the store and customers will see it. And then if they see it, they'll, oh, what's that all about? It's all about making sure that we're starful. We call it being starful, being mindful, being present in the moment for every customer that comes through the door. It's like what Liza and Adam were talking about earlier. You know, it's about making sure that these customers have a great experience with us, that they're going to come back. And we call it creating a love promise moment. So it's about creating a love promise moment for the people at the stores. And I'll tell you, there's only been about 81 of these that have been issued. And at Liza's store, one of the people, a lady by the name of Mandy Housley, has received 3 of these. So she's received the most of anybody so far. And I love it when I get them from, and I could probably send more to Mandy because she's so terrific in how she handles the customers. But what's also interesting is I'm starting to see these now when I go to auto shows or I go to national business conferences, people wearing them. So it's kind of fun to see people really taking it to heart and to say, yeah, I want to be starful. I want to really help our customers. Yes, thank you for that.
Well, I think it goes back to what we said earlier. Tom and the whole Subaru team engages our associates at a really high level around the brand, and they do wear those pins with pride. The moment that recently 2 of our associates at our Richmond store received pins from Tom and a handwritten note, And I mean, that was the most important moment of not only their day, probably of their month. And it also shows them that, yes, Subaru cares how many cars we sell and how many customers coming through service. But the thing that Tom recognizes the most is how we take care of our customers and the relationships that we're building. And people focus on what we recognize, right? And so our team knows that that's the way to get Tom's attention. And that they know that's what's most important to him and to Subaru as a brand. So we love how you recognize our team, Tom. It really goes a long way.
Yeah, thanks, Liza. We at our National Business Conference this year, Ted, we added another feature to our Love Promise night, which is typically the first night of our event, where we honor the Love Promise Retailer of the Year. But we took 6 people from our retailer organization and honored them as our Subaru Shining Stars, and bought them, paid their cost to come to the meeting. They were actually my guests, and brought them up on stage for them to be recognized. And then afterwards, we did a little plaque and sent the plaque out to them as a remembrance. And we hope over time this gets out, and there's almost like a competition for this. I can't wait 10 years from now, 15 years from now, like Mandy, for example, getting another one. She's going to be recognized because she's so good. This Mandy Housley is terrific, Liza. You've got a gem there for sure. She's a star.
She's graduating from the NADA Dealer Academy next Friday.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, we can't wait to celebrate her. So we're continuing to pour into her because but she won't leave the Subaru store. So that's her next step, will be to be a general manager of the Subaru dealership.
Yeah, please. Well, I'll look for her announcement in the automotive news.
Yes, it'll be there, I think, next week, or I don't know when the next class is.
And Liza, how great somebody to come up from fixed ops to be a general manager, a future general manager, a woman to be future general manager at a Subaru dealership, so at a retailer. Yes. So strong, powerful. Adam?
I wanted to talk about, the beauty of working with a good, strong OEM. And I know there's a lot of OEMs that pay attention to Fixed Ops Roundtable. So I want to point this out. We want to have the same associates in the store, whether it's in a promoted position or not, that the customer can build a relationship with and not have that turnover. I'm going to tell you, having been part of an OEM before and now being the other side of this for almost 20 years, the revolving door of our fixed ops representatives in other brands is insane. With one of the other brands I've had 4 fixed ops DMs in 35 months. That's crazy, right? So we can build people who stay in positions or who assist us at the dealer level from the OEM can assist you greatly if you're building on something. But if you're continually going back and starting from scratch and you know that they're not going to be there a long time, then our people have a tough time engaging them. That being said, the world has changed. Yeah. And people do want promotions and they do want to be recognized. But we also found that the associates now also want some choices. And as we discussed in the last Fixed Ops Roundtable, we now have people who are in our stores on 5-day work weeks, 4-day work weeks, and even 3-day full-time with benefits work weeks, where they're job sharing that real estate that we call a bay or we call an office, to where they're both getting full-time and working 3 days, and it's working well together. But I didn't want this to go away without pointing out that Subaru has done a great job, at least in our area, of maintaining that field contact so that it's something that we can continually build from rather than going back to scratch. We have trained DMs. We just want to be able to pick the flowers when they're ready to produce a massive amount for us.
Great point. Finally today, all 3 of you have mentioned the Subaru Love Promise and the amazing support that all of you and retailers provide. Tom, there's also that Subaru Loves to Care. Subaru of America is the largest automotive supporter of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Dr. Lou was here earlier today, explained to us their new Dare to Dream children's project, which we're supporting this week at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Tom, talk to us today a little bit about your partnership with LLS and how that has come about.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ted. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Subaru of America, and I should add our retailers too. We are the largest corporate donor to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, LLS. We're in our 7th year of partnership with LLS. It started in 2016. And through the Subaru Loves to Care event that we do every year in June, Over the years, we and our retailers have donated over, I think it's like 230,000 blankets, 31,000 or more arts and crafts kits, thousands and thousands of letters and messages of hope to cancer patients who are in the hospitals, as well as money. And what's rewarding about LLS and what they do is not only do they fund blood cancers, but they're also funding other types of cancers. And in fact, I think Dr. Luke could probably tell you this better than I could. Over the last 20 years or so, they've had a funding and have funded almost every major cancer treatment drug that's been approved by the federal FDA department over the years. It's remarkable the amount of progress that they're making and are funding, not just in blood cancers, but in all cancers. And the Dare to Dream event that Dr. Lou is talking about is really important because each child is different in terms of the protocols that are required, because everybody's body chemistry and blood types and so forth is a little bit different. Their DNA is just a little bit different. And so what this is about, it's making sure that children in particular get the individual treatments that they need and deserve. And I know you're a big supporter of LLS, and Subaru of America is proud we're going to donate, Ted, $2,500 in your name to LLS as a result of your commitment to LLS. So thank you for doing that and making cancer awareness important and helping to solve cancer.
Super. It's near and dear to my heart as well. I have CLL leukemia, which of course, as you know, there are many types of leukemia. I have one that I've had for many years now. So, but thank you on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, Tom, for all you do. That Dare to Dream project is special, and we'll learn all about it here this week. And there's a QR code, everybody, on the screen, along with a website. It says fixedopscares.org, where anybody watching today can make a donation right now to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society for that Dare to Dream project, and to help us raise a lot of funds for Dare to Dream from LLS. So, Tom, thank you very much on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
My pleasure.
Ted, I was sharing with you all earlier that pediatric cancer has been a big focus for us as a company. And just yesterday, we were donating over $33,000 to families in Central Virginia who are currently battling pediatric cancer. And we've learned that transportation is actually one of the biggest challenges for families who are having to transport kids back and forth to appointments. And to be able to understand that that's something that we can all be helpful with, that's what we do every day, I know was pretty impactful to our teams. But I'm sure that Adam, and he and I haven't talked about this, but we also would want to make sure that we are working with Tom and this panel to be able to support the efforts of Fixed Ops Roundtable. Adam, what do you think if we each put in $1,250, so it's another $2,500, we got $5,000 from the three of us? Sound good?
It's perfect for me. We have an opportunity to realize what happens in people's families, not only to the patient, but we all know that the last thing you want to hear is that your child has cancer, and how it affects families. And we also work with a regional charity that helps the families along the way, because it certainly it's not only an illness, it's a destruction of family and and an interruption to people's work lives. And unfortunately, many children, the nearest great place to get treated is not within 10 minutes of their home, right? So they end up having to drive great distances, spend the night in hotels, miss work, etc. So we will continue to pour in, and yeah, I think we might even do a little bit more.
Awesome.
Liza and Adam, thank you. And Tom, thank you so much.
It was great being with all of you today.
Absolutely. Always fun.
And by the way, I want to wish all of you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for all that you do for automotive retail and the Fixed Ops community.
Thank you, guys.
Thanksgiving to you, and your family.
Everybody, Tom Dahl, Liza Borches, and Adam Arens here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.